This review is on the novel Rose Madder by Stephen King. This book was published in 1995 and is 420 pages in length. Rose Madder takes place in the year 1985, and we're introduced to the characters Rose and Norman Daniels. Norman is a detective with the local police force, and he's very abusive with Rose. She experiences a miscarriage as well as a lot of other hardships over many years with Norman, and one day Rose gets on a bus to escape and leave her old life with Norman behind. Upon arriving in a Midwestern city, Rose meets a social worker that helps her to get into the local women's shelter, and the women's shelter understands Rose's predicament. They agree to kind of help her hide from her police officer husband. Rose, one day, needing some spare cash, decides to step into the local pawn shop, and she ultimately sees a painting in this pawn shop that she's very taken by. And she dickers with the employee in the pawn shop, and they make an exchange, wedding ring for painting. Rose, as she is living her life admiring this painting, she notices that the painting changes subtly from time to time. One day, the woman in the painting will be in this particular part of the painting. The next day, she'll be down here in this part. And one day, as Rose is examining this painting, she steps into the painting and it takes her into another world. When Rose gets into this world, she meets the woman in the painting, Dorcas, who is a prophetess that has a problem that she just cannot work out on her own. Dorcas's baby is imprisoned in an underground labyrinth and is being held captive by a mean, one-eyed bull. And Dorcas decides to employ Rose to go into the labyrinth and rescue her baby. And in return for that, Dorcas agrees to help Rose in Rose's world with her problem of her husband. And that is the plot, the story that takes place in Rose Madder. I didn't like this book. It was strange. I think that the book had promise, but when Rose steps into that other world, it just gets weird. It gets weird, and it just doesn't go anywhere that has value, in my opinion. Stephen King, in his memoir on writing, mentions this book, and he mentions the fact that he didn't particularly care for it either. I could go on and on about how I disliked it, but we'll leave it at that. This book, I give it a 3 stars out of 5 because the book is readable. The novel's readable. It isn't a terrible novel, but it isn't really what I would consider an enjoyable novel either. I say, ultimately, don't read it.